Call roll.
Yeah. So, Mr. Kimber's there. He just can't talk. Ty Guerra is on the phone. Mr. Hartwell is on the phone. Kathy,
Hi.
Sean,
I'm here.
John France, he's not there, and Joseph Cassidy, I don't see him either.
He's
I'm
in.
here.
Oh, you are? Okay. All right, so we only have one, just John France. Okay, so we have quorum.
I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes from March.
Yeah, they're from March. And I'm going to go ahead. They're in the chat, but I'm also going to send them out to you guys. I'm going to do that right now.
Did everybody receive the minutes?
They're in
No.
the chat if you guys. I just sent them via email too. That way, for ones that aren't very tech savvy or unfamiliar with Teams, they can access. Ty and Mr. Hartwell, did you guys get the minutes?
Yes, I got them. I got them.
Do you guys want to vote to approve them? Okay, so we have one vote. Can we get one more? Anybody?
I second that.
Okay, perfect. Is that Sean?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at them right now, so that's why my face is not visible.
That's okay. All right, so the minutes were approved, correct, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, we're good.
We didn't have any very particular specific items that will require the commission's approval. However, I did want to take the time to field some questions, kind of explain to you guys what we've been doing since March, kind of where we are and what our plans are for any sort of summer recreation, and summer programming, recreation, pools, aquatics, all of that. In March, we went into after the stay-at-home order was put in place. The city shortly thereafter began to offer develop policies and procedures so that people could begin to telework from home without having to come into the office due to any extenuating circumstances regarding COVID-19. As a result of that, many of our staff, if not the majority of our staff, were working, continued to work, but were working remotely. We had to, once the stay-at-home order was in place, we had to cancel pretty much every program, every athletic event, anything that we had going on, because there was no way for us to adequately provide those programs with the stay-at-home order in place. And so we canceled all of our outdoor events, including the Easter egg hunt. Any adult athletics they were canceled. Youth athletics were canceled. Senior programs were canceled. The Piedmont Plus Senior Games was also canceled. And even Special Olympics. And those were through recommendations. A lot of those were through recommendations that a lot of our other municipalities, neighboring municipalities, were doing the same thing. And we all felt that the best thing to do was for us to cancel, as we were at that point still learning a lot about this virus. The governor, we went into phase 2, phase 1 of the reopening in early May. As a result, we had to prepare ourselves to look to see what things could be offered throughout our park system, what facilities could be opened as we move to phase one, phase two, and phase three. In addition to everything that was canceled, we actually had to close all of our playgrounds. We locked and closed all of our tennis courts. We also um, our greenways and trails remained open, but the restrooms at all of our park facilities were closed. There really wasn't a way for us to ensure that those facilities could get the sort of service that they needed to ensure the safety of the public, as well as the staff that will be servicing them. As of right now, we're beginning to slowly reopen restrooms. Um, Towards phase one is scheduled to end on June 26th. Um, as a result of that, our plan is to offer some sort of summer camp and at our 8 outdoor feeding sites at our recreation centers. Now, even though the restrictions were in place, the stay-at-home order was in place, and the restrictions were in place regarding COVID, we did operate 8 feeding sites for seniors and families, and we have continued to do that. Those are still happening. That's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Um, and we will continue to do that at those locations. But at those 8 locations, those will be the sites that will host our summer camps. Summer camps will be at a greatly reduced capacity in terms of in regards to how they had been in the past. We're going to allow 24 participants per site, and that's to maintain the gathering limits that have been put in place by Governor Cooper. Um, when COVID also greatly affected our ability to recruit and retain lifeguards. As a result of that, the city is looking to open on July 1st to open 4 of our outdoor pools. Those outdoor pools will be,
Liam,
yes,
hey, can we just, whoever's on the line, you gotta put it on mute. There's a lot of background noise. Someone's gotta mute their phone. Everyone should mute their phone if they're doing stuff. Thank you.
okay, hold on. Is this better?
No, it sounds like somebody's like tapping or pounding or something. I don't know.
Oh, you mean that noise?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's that's uh that's me. Hold on one second. That is a contractor repairing a pole in my house. There we go. Okay, is this better?
A lot better.
All right, I'm sorry about that. The as I was mentioning, the uh, COVID drastically impaired our ability to recruit lifeguards, given that the majority of our lifeguards that we recruit are from high schools. When schools shut down, we were not able to kind of get inside those facilities and recruit lifeguards. So our plan is on July 1, staff has developed a plan to open all of our, now all, open up 4 of our outdoor pool sites. Those pool sites will be Parkland, Polo, Bolton, and Kimberly. In addition to that, we'll be looking to open up some of our splash pads as well, to supplement those areas of the city that where we won't have pools opening. We just did not have the capacity didn't have enough lifeguards to open up everything. And so that is the plan for us currently. July 1, we will begin we will be inside. Well, hopefully we will be in phase 2 of our reopening and begin to kind of slowly ease back into some sort of normalcy for operations throughout our entire park system.
William, can you repeat those splash parks again?
The pools that will open will be Kimberly Park, Bolton, Parkland, and Polo.
Okay.
If we do end up getting the capacity to open an additional pool, it will be our hopes to possibly open a 5th pool at Long Creek. But we just don't have enough lifeguards on staff to operate all of our pools like we typically would do during a normal summer season. Now, even though we're opening those pool locations, the capacity for each pool will be greatly reduced. For instance, the reason why the pools that were chosen, there are certain deck requirements in terms of social distancing that we have to maintain. And so the pool locations that were chosen have enough deck space so that we can allow people to kind of come in and while they're practicing responsible social distancing. So Polo, there's a lot of deck space. Bolton, there's a lot of deck space. Parkland, that particular facility has been closed for the past 2 years because it's been undergoing renovations. Those renovations are complete. And so that's one that we're planning on opening. And Kimberly Park is another pool that also has a tremendous amount of deck space. And we feel comfortable that we can staff those facilities while maintaining social distancing. There will be a lot of additional protocols that we'll have in place, such as temperature checks as people enter and exit the facility. And that's not just for those people who are coming into our facilities to use them, but it's also for the safety of those staff that are coming to work. And so there will be temperature checks at each site that also will be in place at our summer camp locations. And they're almost like a wellness check. There'll be wellness checks that are conducted throughout the day for the camp participants to make sure that when they're arriving at camp, that they don't have any fevers above 99 degrees, that they don't catch a fever or become ill while they're at the camp, but also the temperatures will be checked on the way out of the door. That's where we are right now. And a lot of other municipalities around us are doing some very similar things. All of our large gathering outdoor events throughout the summer have been canceled, including Rock Out at the Quarry. Other municipalities around us, such as Greensboro and Kernersville, have canceled summer camps at least through the end of June. They're going to be reevaluating whether or not they're going to offer any sort of camp. Or Greensboro will be looking to see if they can offer any sort of camp at that time. But Kernersville has already gone ahead and closed and canceled all of their summer camp programs throughout the summer. Many other municipalities are not even opening pools and splash pads because it's hard to enforce the gathering limits inside of park spaces. So, and our splash pads are very, very, very popular. On any given day, you can have anywhere between 30 to 75 people there at one splash pad using that facility. So we're gonna have to be very diligent about and responsible about which locations we'll open, which splash pads locations that we would open up. But staff is working together and putting plans in place to make sure that not only the public is as safe as possible, but our staff is as well. Are there any questions at this point?
If a parent has already submitted a application for summer camp, how would that be as it relates to, would they be able to keep that, or would they have to reapply again or fill another application out?
There will be, once we announce the registration for summer camps, everyone will have to fill out a new application, and those applications will come on a first come first served basis. But there are additional forms and waivers that we will be requiring participants to sign to ensure their safety and that they understand what the rules are for participating in those camps.
I may have missed those camps that will be operating at those facilities, and they are
Leah, can you give the locations for the that have been our feeding sites as well as our summer camp locations?
Hey, everybody. So during COVID, we've actually had 8 feeding sites open to make sure that we're providing meals for the public. The locations that we've had those feeding sites at, which will also serve as campsites, there's going to be 8 of them: Old Town, Sim Center, Haynes Hosiery, Sedge Garden, Little Creek, Minnie Lee Davis Harris, which is 14th Street, Polo Park, and Anderson Center.
okay.
Does anyone else have any more questions about any of the information I provided up to this point? We're still in a learning stage in terms of how this virus is going to affect us long term. We do feel confident that at maybe in the fall or August, September, or somewhere in that time frame, that we should be able to get back to offering programs, having our recreation centers open. But through at least phase 2, our recreation centers, our plan is to keep those facilities closed. And so the only recreation centers that will be open will be those locations where we have the summer camps. In addition to that, I know that many of you are aware and have been reading stories in the paper or hearing about them on the news, where the distance learning program that the school system offered, there were many students who were not participating or did not log in one time to participate in those in that distance learning. I've reached out to the school system, and we're currently working with them to possibly use our other remaining recreation centers as distance learning sites to allow some of these kids to kind of come in and get caught up and get prepared for the upcoming school season. Where that plan is still in the works. I know the school system is doing some other things as well, but we are trying to work with our other community partners to ensure that we're doing the best that we can to ensure that our kids and our young folk are ready for school next year.
Joe had a question about the bathrooms and the locker rooms. He asked if they were large enough to permit social distancing.
At our swimming pool locations?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, they are. There will be certain precautions that are taken there inside the bathhouses and the restrooms at our 4 outdoor pools that we plan on opening to ensure that people are practicing responsible social distancing. Are there any other questions about what's been going on and where we are at this point regarding how COVID has affected us? If not, I'm going to turn it over to Renata and have her go through some of our project updates and let you know where we are with some of our capital projects.
William,
Good
before
afternoon. How's everyone doing? I'm sorry.
William, before you do, I've had a chance to be able to review your reopening plan. I just want to commend you and your staff on the work that you've done managing a recreation facility and staff. I know the challenges that campus rec fitness professionals are going through, and you all are working on a much shorter timeline than a lot of us. So kudos to you and your team.
Thank you. And I know that the staff appreciates those kind of words. It's really, we had to put together a lot of information very quickly. We had to devise, and Leah and her team and Renata worked really hard to get a reopening plan. And that's once we got approval on that, we went ahead and shared that with you. But it was very detailed, and probably more detailed than what the city was looking for. But they were appreciative, seeing how much thought was placed into every facility that we have to open. We have such a broad range of facilities. You have different things, issues at Salem Lake than you would have at Historic Bathabra, for instance. So staff has really worked hard on that, and I appreciate the kind words, and I'm sure they appreciate them as well.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Just a brief update in regards to where we are with park projects. Just some good news on the horizon. Basically, have gotten word and spoken with contractor today. Hobby Park, we're looking to have that completed by at least July 1st, as well as have gotten off the phone and hoping to have completed also by July 1st the Sprague 14th Street and our Greenway playground installations. So those are projects that we hope to have finished soon. Currently, at this time, we still have projects that are still in the design phase, which is still quite a few of them that we're hoping that we will move into construction phase within September, somewhere between September and Octoberish. Many of those will be additional playgrounds that we will be installing, as well as we're hoping to move forward with the renovations at W.R. Anderson, and hopefully, as we move forward, renovations at Carl Russell and other facilities. As Director Royston has said, we have been working diligently. Currently, right now, a lot of the staff, we're in the process of in our reopening phases, currently trying to, which is a challenge for us, but we're working through it, is actually sanitizing all the playgrounds that are out there before reopening. So we're looking at sanitizing at least almost 50 playgrounds before we open them back up. We're also incorporating signage at a lot of the facilities. We're getting signage made for social distancing for our greenways and our trails, as well as we have put signage up at our tennis courts in regards to the guidelines that are there for with the CDC. Also, we will also be implementing signage on our shelter reservations because, as you know, shelter reservations opened up as of June 1st, so they are still going forward. Other than that, we're just working diligently, still trying to keep, on track and meet the goals and the deadlines, and basically make sure that we provide everything that is safe, that is healthy for the citizens, keeping the restrooms clean, keeping everything that they need out there to the best of our abilities.
Are there any questions about the information that Renata just provided?
Yeah, I do. Will there be any like hand wipes or anything on the playgrounds so that parents and kids can clean themselves?
We're exploring some options of having some sort of hand sanitizer or something at our location, at many of our locations. Finding a way to do it where those stations aren't getting vandalized is the trick.
Right.
It is something that we are looking to do, and it's something that we will have in place at our camp locations and at our swimming pool sites. But at all of our other locations throughout the park system, once those playgrounds open towards the end of phase 2, we'll look to see what we can do or see what type of cleaning or disinfecting options we can institute to make sure those facilities are as safe as possible. Any other questions? No problem, Kathy. Leah, you want to go into some additional details about camp and what the plans are, and also talk about some of the virtual programming pieces that we've done since the shelter in place was instituted by Governor Cooper?
Hi, everybody. So a couple of things that we've been doing since we've been in the stay-at-home order is we have opened up 8 of our locations to be feeding sites in the evenings. And what we've been doing on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. is we have staff at those locations, the 8 sites that I said earlier that will also be summer camp locations. And what we're doing at those locations is we're inviting the community to come in so if there's a need for food. And what we're doing is on Mondays, we're making sure that we're providing a dinner and a breakfast option for Monday and Tuesday. And then families can come on Wednesday to pick up an option for Wednesday and Thursday. And then they'll come on Friday to get food for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday breakfast. So over the past, I guess it's been about 8 to 10 weeks, we had to send some numbers in. We've been working with Second Harvest Food Bank and Providence. We have served over 38,000 meals to the community. So very proud of that. We've had staff out there. Also, we've had a couple locations that have participated in Mass the City. where staff are out there helping provide masks for seniors primarily. Also, if you go to our website, if you've had opportunity to go to our website lately, you'll see on there that we have an icon on there that says Virtual Recreation Center. Staff have done a phenomenal job of still working while they've been at home. We know that recreation is very important to the community. It is how people stay, it's how we alleviate our stress. It's how we kind of take care of our bodies and our mind. So staff have acknowledged this, and they've done a great job of providing kind of out-of-the-box thinking for recreation programs. So I encourage you to go visit the website. And like I said, there's a little link on the top that says Virtual Recreation Centers. Staff have done a great job with that. They've also been playing around with the idea of doing virtual summer camps. As William was talking, a lot of our locations or our surrounding cities aren't offering summer camps this year, not the one-on-one anyways, where the contact is. So, still looking for those options of how do we keep our community engaged. A lot of people are doing virtual camps. So we're actually going to play around that a little bit as well this summer so that we're not just stopping the virtual recreation that we're offering so that citizens still have opportunities to do things if they're not able to make it out to camp. So summer camp, as William said, we're going to do it at 8 locations. It's going to be very different than what we're used to this year. Health and safety is definitely a priority for citizens, staff, our campers. We want to make sure that we're doing things right. So in the past, we've had summer camps of 40 kids at each location. To make sure that we're adhering to social distancing and the appropriate group numbers, we're actually going to reduce that number down to 24 at each location. Along with that, we're looking at changing the way that we're providing our activities. In the past, where we do a lot of groups or group activities where we're all clustered together, we're being very mindful to make sure that we're planning very individualized activities and really taking into consideration using a lot of our outdoors space that we have. So for example, Sedge Garden is going to be a campsite. Phenomenal site. They have a walking track, baseball diamond, picnic shelter, volleyball course. They have a lot of open space so that kids don't feel like they're kind of clustered into this room where they can't get up and move around a whole lot. We're looking at kind of switching the way that we've done camp in the past and making sure that we're using a little bit more outdoors. So I expect to see a whole lot more of nature programs happening with this, which is great because kids need to be outside and playing anyways. Registration, we're still working on, we got to iron out the kinks of how we want registration to work because we know that we have reduced numbers for summer camp. We definitely know there's a need for it. So we are looking at doing registration 2 weeks prior to the first date of summer camp, which would be July 6th, would be the first date. It's going to run 6 weeks. So we're looking around June 20th for registration to begin. We're playing with 2 options. We're looking at an online option, but then we're also looking at an in-person option, figuring out how to social distance people, making sure they have all that information prior to the date that registration starts. Do you guys have any questions about any of that information? Summer camps?
Yeah, Leah, this is John Gunkel. I do have a question. On the social distancing aspect of everything that we're doing, are you guys working from a detailed set of guidelines, or how does that work?
So we are, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, is the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services have provided a guideline for us to use. And so we've used that for pools. We're also using it for summer camps. I'm going through line by line, looking at what they require and what the recommendations are. And I'm using that and taking that to create policies for staff to use as well. Like I said, a lot of things that we are going to change. Also, like we're going to have parents, to make sure that we're not doing a whole lot of cross-contamination, we're going to have a list of items that parents will have to actually bring to summer camp with them. So we're looking at having, scissors, glue sticks, crayons, not super expensive things, but items that way that we can have it in the Ziploc bag and everybody will have their own set to kind of prevent some of that cross-contamination. Same thing with social distancing, that's why we reduced our numbers greatly in summer camps. Each room will have only 8 participants and 1 camp leader in it. So that way we're still making sure that we're adhering to that group size of 10 and less. And then the children will actually stay in those rooms and staff will rotate for programming. So we're going to we got to figure out how to space it out and mark it so it's spaced out, but yet you don't feel like the kids are contained to this little 6x6 block. So we have some challenges that we're working through, but staff are very aware. I will say that staff have done a great job. We've been participating in webinars, doing a lot of research. So we've been following NCRPA standards, looking at what other municipalities are doing, tapped into a lot of resources for this.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions about summer camps, feeding programs?
Leah, can you mention the other supplement that we're doing, the pop-up recreation kind of day camps at various parks as well?
Yeah, so we proposed it. We just got to figure out how we want to manage it. We're looking at doing, because in some regards we do have a social obligation to provide recreation opportunities for our community. Want to make sure that we're doing that in the best way possible. Also acknowledging the fact that we've reduced our numbers in summer camps. Looking at doing kind of like pop-up recreation at some of our picnic shelters that have the amenities that we need with it, that would have water fountains and bathrooms. What would come along with that is staff would go out to certain locations between the hours of about 8:30 and 12:30 and just do recreational play. Once again, focusing on social distancing, individualized activities. So the way that we foresee this would be a lot of, yoga activities,
We're gonna do
athletics.
some pop-up. They're talking about doing pop-up locations
Yeah.
in addition to summer camps.
Yes. Yes.
So pop-up locations, Leah, you don't know how many pop-up locations that may consist of. It may just be just a few or what?
So we're working on that. I provided William with a list of locations that we think are ideal. Some of the challenges that we also have, as William was talking about, the challenges that we've had recruiting lifeguards, we've actually also had that same challenge recruiting playfield leaders. As soon as COVID hit, we had the positions out. We had people applying. As soon as COVID hit, you could tell people just stopped. We are lucky that we have some former employees that were on payroll with us that we're going to be able to use. But this year, based on the numbers that we have for playfield leaders, we only have 15 that we are eligible to hire. So we got to look at our brick and mortar locations first. So we got to make sure that we have those 8 summer camps staffed first. And then after that, we're going to look at our other staff to see what locations we can do with pop-up parks. So those are kind of still in the midst of being developed. But once we have that information, we'll let you guys know about it.
Okay.
And what we were doing with that, we were also looking at locations that aren't tied in close to a rec center. I mean, we want to make sure that we're spreading out opportunities across Winston. So where we have Little Creek, for example, we wouldn't do a pop-up park there because we already have a camp. We look at more focusing on maybe Miller Park, or we're looking at locations that we don't have other activities associated with them.
It's been very, very difficult, and it's something that not only have we looked at, but other municipalities as well, is making sure that whatever we're doing is as equitable as possible. And it's very difficult to do because a lot of the decisions that we're making are based on safety of participants and staff, but we are trying to look at we are working towards actually spreading some of these recreational opportunities around the city to make sure that we can reach as many people as possible. Did anyone have any further questions about any of the information Leah presented? Okay, I'm gonna I know that we're gonna have to I would like to continue these the virtual commission meeting. I know that this was our first one since the pandemic broke. We'd like to continue these until we're at least out of phase 3, which will probably take us into August. Are there any objections to continuing at least the next meeting virtually, and then kind of reevaluating where we are at that point, and then making decisions on finding some ways to move forward after that time?
Sounds fine.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, are there any further questions for me or any of our staff members?
I have a quick one. It's George.
Sure.
Kind of unrelated to the other topics from the meeting. We're seeing what's happening kind of around the country with protests against racism and against police brutality and whatnot. What, if anything, is the Parks Department doing, or what can we do as a commission to support the efforts to sort of prevent those problems from continuing?
That's a good question. I think Here in Winston-Salem, we've been fortunate. I've been reading and staying abreast on what's been going on in Greensboro as well as High Point. Um, the Recreation and Parks Commission, um, uh, I think it's some sort of, if a letter was presented to the sheriff's department as well as our Winston Police Department, to kind of state just what you would like to do um, to support the things that they're working on, I think would be good to do. We haven't been directly, it hasn't affected us directly as a department yet.
Sure.
However, it does impact our community. It does impact the trust in our community. Anything that you all feel that you want to do, we can provide some assistance to you and for you if that's something you want to move forward with. But I would think that at least a letter stating that your support of keeping um, protests peaceful, supporting the community trust. I know that our Winston Police Department has worked extremely hard in building trust amongst its officers and members of the community. They've worked really hard at that under Chief Thompson and the Sheriff's Department as well. So I think they would be amenable to any support from the commission and the department that we can provide.
Okay, maybe we can email about it.
Okay, no problem. Felicia, do you have any updates that you would like to share with the commission before our next meeting?
Not anything that I could think of in particular. I think you guys covered most of it about like the social distancing.
But we are going to have to elect officers.
Oh, yes, that's right. I'm still waiting to hear back from Linda Jackson Barnes. Mr. Kimber's term was technically up in May, but given COVID and that situation, we're going to see if he can continue on, but maybe just reelect a new officer. Do you guys want to do that at the July meeting? Are we going to have a July meeting, William?
I would think that we have a July meeting. I need to look at the dates because I want to make sure it doesn't impact anyone's travel plans if anyone plans on traveling during that time.
It would be July 7th, would be the first Tuesday.
Okay. I think we should, it would be my recommendation that we have that meeting on July 7th.
Okay. Are you guys all good with that?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So do you guys want to look to elect him in July, a new
chair? Yes. We'll do it towards the conclusion of the next meeting.
Okay.
I'd just like to let you all know that, and I know that someone earlier mentioned this as well, but staff has worked, even though a lot of us and a lot of staff were not in the office every day and our work schedules became a little indifferent than how they would normally be. Rest assured knowing that our staff has been working very hard behind the scenes to at least to get through this COVID-19 scare. I know that Renata, I have to tip my hat to her because her and her staff have worked really hard. Even when the majority of our maintenance staff were at home, she pulled together a crew of 10 to 11 people, and they basically spent all day long just going around parks and emptying trash. We did find that once the stay-at-home order was put in place, that a lot of people were out using our parks. They weren't using the playgrounds, but they were out in our parks, just getting outdoors, just trying to find something to do. Leah and her staff have been working very hard to get some sort of virtual programming going, trying to figure out what they can do. Staff has remained anxious and eager to get back to work because they really do love their job and really love providing those services to our citizens. So I have to tip my hat to them. They have worked extremely hard in trying to keep us afloat and keep things going And although we aren't completely through this yet, we do see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I want to, in front of all of you, publicly thank them for all the hard work and time and energy that they've been putting into our recreation department and keeping things going.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank
If
you.
there aren't any further questions, like a motion to adjourn.
William, one quick
William,
question.
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize. I should have asked earlier. You gave the information about which pools would be opening. When will that information be publicized?
Very, very soon. We'll be looking. We did a press release. A press release went out last Friday. We'll be doing an additional press release as we get closer to those pools opening. But we want to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed before we put that out there. But that is our plan, and it's been kind of common knowledge amongst us and the city manager's office that those are the facilities we're working to open. We had to provide that information to council, and I also wanted to make sure that you had it in your hands, as well. But we'll be making an announcement here probably within next week or so.
Okay.
William, those dates that you had mentioned for us, the summer, the camps, all those are going to be emailed out to us, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The camp start dates, end dates, the pool schedule. You guys will have all of that information once I get approval to send it out to you. But yes, I want to keep you as informed as I can.
We'll send it all out to your emails, and we'll also post it in the Teams chat.
Mm-hmm. Are there any further questions? I would like to thank you all for taking the time to come in and have I know you're going to miss the good food that we typically serve. Today would have been a great day for a nice grilled chicken salad, huh, Kathy? But thank you all for your patience, and thank you for being on the commission. I look forward to talking to each and every last one of you very, very soon. You guys take care and stay safe.
All right.
Thank you.